So today is going to be a double feature, mostly because one of these stories is pretty short. I'm going to be talking about Martha Rendell and Marie Besnard, pretty different killers, but I thought I'd talk about two women killers because there's not that many. There's a few, but there's not a ton, so I thought I'd put both of them together since one story is very short. So before we jump into it, if you like the video, please give it a like and comment. I respond to all comments. And if you like me or any of my videos, please consider subscribing. Even though I'm going to be getting a job soon, I will be uploading as much as I can. So I really do hope that if you don't subscribe, that you at least get something out of this. So let's just jump into it. Also, my bullfrog friend has another friend. I know you can hear it, so they get a little crazy talking to each other, but I hope it's not too much of a distraction and it's kind of peaceful a little bit. So alright, so we'll start with Martha. Oh my gosh, okay, before we start, I just want to say I have not done this on purpose. I've talked about 3 serial killers. Well, in this video I'll be talking about 2. I talked about Ed Gein. They are all born in August. I did not do that on purpose, I swear. I'm just now reading this. I haven't even read what she did. I read briefly just to make sure it wasn't too graphic, but she's born on August 10th, 1871, and I know the other 2 are born in August, so that's weird. Just thought I'd point that out. Alright, so her nickname was Nil, N-I-L. Her characteristics, sadism, and she was a child killer. Number of victims, 3. Date of murders, July 28th, 1907, October 6th, 1907, and October 6th, 1908. Interesting. She's on the same day, but a year later. Weird. Date of arrest, July 1909. Murder method, poisoning with hydrochloro. I know this word. I know words, and then I'll read them, and then they're just hydrochloric acid. Trust me, I know how to read, but it's like I know words, and then when I read them, I can't read them. Anyway, I'm not even gonna cut that out. Known victims: Annie Morris, 7, Olive Morris, 5, Arthur Morris, 14. Oh no. This was in Perth, Australia. Oh good. She was executed by hanging October 6, 1909, so that's good. Her background. Martha was born in Adelaide, Southern Australia. She would grow to become a young woman who didn't follow the rules and conventions of society at that time. Unusually, she had moved out of the family home when she was just 16 years old, and quickly gave birth to 3 illegitimate babies. This made her an outsider to society, as promiscuity was a terrible sin. She then became involved with a married man, Thomas Nichols Morris. Thomas and his wife had 9 children. Oh my gosh. And in the mid-1890s, he started his affair with Rendell. In 1900, Thomas had to go where the work was and moved his family to Perth, Western Australia. They also left because rumors were spreading around the small town of his affair with Rendell. Rendell, not willing to give up her affair with Thomas, left her own children behind and followed Thomas and his wife to Perth. At the period in time, divorce was not a possibility, so there was no way Thomas could divorce his wife and be with Rendell. It was considered a sin to divorce, as Christian marriage was the foundation of the state of the welfare of its citizens and their happiness and prosperity. That was in quotations. A federal divorce bill had been proposed, but was quickly voted against. Rendell and Thomas, however, continued their affair until he left his wife in 1906. Although they couldn't divorce, they could separate. He took the 5 youngest children with him and set up a house with Rendell. This sounds like my Sims. Oh my gosh, this is weird. By now, their affair had been going on for more than 10 years, and it seemed Rendell finally had what she had always wanted, but it wasn't all wonderful as she had thought it would be. They moved to East Perth, to a neighborhood where few would ask questions, and Rendell posed as Thomas's wife. Although they were together at last, they were living in dire poverty, and Rendell spent all her time cleaning and taking care of the children. The children were resentful towards Rendell, as they most likely missed their mother, who had been refused contact with them. The children were either too young or too busy to help out around the home, and Rendell was alone most of the time. With no family or friends, unhappy with her lot in life and fed up with the challenges of the children, Rendell took matters into her own hands to try and get the life she wanted. Murders. Little 7-year-old Annie was the first of the children to die at the hands of their stepmother. Rendell first put something into Annie's food to make her throat sore. Then she would swab what she called medicine on the back of her throat. The medicine was actually hydrochloric acid, which made the throat so inflamed the child was unable to eat. Annie essentially starved to death on July 28th, 1907. When the doctor filled out the death certificate, he listed, now this is an interesting word, diphtheria as the cause of death. A few months later, on October 6, 1907, Olive died in the same manner, and once again the cause of death was determined to be diphtheria. Rendell then waited for a period of time before taking care of the youngest child living, Arthur. He was 14 at the time, and it took longer for Rendell's treatment to work. After his death on October 6, 1908, the doctor asked for an autopsy to be performed. Rendell agreed, but only if she could witness the process. The doctors didn't find anything incriminating. Rendell waited until April 1909 before she decided to end the life of another of the children, George. She gave him a cup of tea, and almost straight away he complained about having a sore throat. Rendell swabbed the acid on the back of his throat, which scared George so much he ran off to his mother's home. Or scared George, I'm sorry. Timeline of the known murders. Annie, Olive, and Art. It just goes back into, that's a little repetitive. Her arrest and trial. When George was reported missing, neighbors contacted the police, worried about the circumstances of the children's death and now the disappearance of George. Police investigators looked for George and found him at his mother's house. He told the police Rendell had killed his siblings and tried to kill him with spirits of salts, which is hydrochloric acid. Because there had been a fairly long period since the last child died, the only way to check to see if they were murdered was to exhume the bodies. This was done on July 3rd, 1909, and the autopsies showed there had been poisoning of the children. But there was still no proof of Rendell swabbing their throats, so they experimented with guinea pigs and rabbits, and the results were the same as was seen on the children's autopsies. That's messed up. Oh, they poisoned animals to find the results? I mean, it was the 1900s, I guess, so. Rendell was arrested along with her husband Thomas, and both were initially charged with the murders of the children. Thomas was eventually acquitted, but Rendell was found guilty and sentenced to death. I'm surprised Thomas was charged. On October 6, 1909, Rendell was taken to the gallows of the Fremantle prison and hanged at 8 a.m. She never showed any guilt or remorse for the crime she had committed. She was buried in Fremantle Cemetery. And then there's some trivia with this one. Sorry, I'm like moving it. I'm trying to see. Martha Rendell was the last woman executed in the state of Western Australia. An illusion appears on one of the prison windows, which can only be seen on the outside of the window, when inside the church, looking out the glass, is smooth and even, with no unusual shape or texture. An urban legend has it that this illusion is the portrait of Rendell, who watches over the prison. Wait, what? Illusion appears on one of the windows, which can only be seen on the outside of the window, one inside the church, looking out the glass, smooth and even. I don't understand that one. The way it's worded. Serial killer Eric Edgar Cook was later buried in the same grave as Rendell following his execution. They share a grave. Oh my gosh. That's weird. Okay. And now for Marie Besnard. She was born on August 15th, 1896. Her aliases or nicknames was the Good Lady of Loudon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Characteristics: poisoning for financial gain. Her number of victims: 0 to 12. But if it was 0, she wouldn't be in this book, so I don't know why they put that. Date of murders: 1927 to 1949. The date of her arrest was July 21st, 1949. Her murder method was arsenic poisoning. Her known victims: suspected Auguste Antigny, 33. That was her first husband. Marie Lecomte. There's a lot of names. I'm not going to go through all of them. And they are all very interesting. So she killed her first husband, her father, her stepfather, her stepmother, her maternal grandmother, and her mother. Wow. And this was in Loudun, France. In 1896, Marie Josephine Philippine Davalade, I'm really bad at that, was born in Loudun, France. Her parents were considered frugal, and she attended a convent school for her education. Those who went to school with Marie described her as immoral, vicious, a thief, and a girl who ran wild with the boys. In 1920, Marie married Auguste Antigny, her cousin, and they remained married until his death in 1927. Marie went on to marry Leon Besnard in 1928, rather quickly following the death of her first husband, Auguste. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The couple soon realized that any chance of gaining a fortune was out of their hands until their relatives died. How surprising it was that not long after, various relatives died, leaving their financial fortunes to Marie and Leon. Her murders. Not long after Leon's parents inherited a lot of money, they were invited to come and live with Leon and Marie. Soon after, Leon's father died of poisoning, supposedly from eating the wrong kind of mushrooms. Just 3 months later, his mother also died, and the cause was given as pneumonia. The couple ended up subletting some rooms to a couple who were wealthy and without children. The Rivets, Toussaint and Blanche, this was in France, I cannot pronounce any of this, were friends of Leon's. On July 14th, 1939, Toussaint died from pneumonia, and in December of 1941, Blanche died due to I should have looked up these words, died of something. In their will, Marie was listed as their only heir. Marie was also the named beneficiary of the wills of her cousins Pauline and Virginie. I'm not going to read their last names. On July 1st, 1945, they're too confusing. Pauline, who was 88, apparently mistook a bowl of lethal lye for a bowl of dessert and died. A week later, Virginie allegedly did exactly the same thing and died. 6 months later, Marie's mother, Marie Louise, fancy last name, also died January 16th, 1946. At one point, Marie discovered Leon had been having an affair with another woman. Leon claimed to a friend that he thought Marie was poisoning him, saying she had served some soup to him one night, but there was already a liquid in the bowl before she poured the soup. Shortly afterwards, on October 25th, 1947, Leon was dead. The cause given was uremia. Some of these words I've never heard of. Because of the claims of poisoning Leon had made, the gendarmerie ordered an investigation and an autopsy was conducted. The forensic surgeon found that Leon's body contained 19.45 milligrams of arsenic. Marie was promptly arrested, and all other suspects' deaths around her were exhumed and re-examined. This led to Marie being charged with 13 counts of murder. The autopsy reports showed that each victim had been poisoned by arsenic slowly over a period of time. At that time, though, it was difficult to prove this, as toxicology was a relatively new science, and Barraud, the forensic surgeon, had difficulty explaining his results and defending them when questioned on the stand by the defense lawyers. For this reason, the first 2 trials resulted in no conviction. She was placed on trial a third time in 1961, however. The defense was once again successful in undermining the relevance of the arsenic evidence, and Marie was acquitted of all of the murders. The outcome. So, although in today's legal system, Marie would most likely have been convicted based on the autopsy findings, it wasn't to be the case in 1961. It may seem that she shouldn't be considered a serial killer without a conviction, but the evidence suggests otherwise, and therefore she has earned her place in this book. Marie Besnard died in 1980, presumably from natural causes. She remained a free woman until her death. all I have.